And it's just marvelous when we have the opportunity to meet readers and to interact with readers. You make our lives pretty much worthwhile, so thank you for being here. I was debating exactly how I would proceed on this, and I know Hopeton Hay said he is going to ask me some questions, and then I also hope that there will be questions coming from the audience. And I think that is probably going to generate much of the discussion and questions that you probably want to have answered. But I thought, as a writer, I would begin by just reading a little excerpt from my novel, telling you what it's about. I put the two novels together. In fact, just recently, maybe about 2 weeks ago, since I come from an academic background, two academicians, literary critics in academia, had each written a response to the novels and then asked me to respond to their responses. And they call both of these novels the Anna novels. So I want to tell you why they are the Anna novels and what was happening here. Like most writers, I write about, what I start with was something that affected me personally. So I will tell you the thing that affected me personally. But keep in mind, when you read these two novels, which I hope you will, that this is fiction, which means I took lots of liberties. For example, Anna is the only child of her parents. My parents had 11 children. So you start from that and you have a big difference. But the truth was this. I came home one year from New York to Trinidad, and my mother, who every time I would come home, we would come home every year, and we would say she needs to have a medical examination. I have brothers who are in medicine, and my mother would say, I'm not going to the doctor. You can examine me everywhere you want, but I will go to the doctor. You can examine me everywhere except under my clothes. That means take her temperature, check her heartbeat, not under her clothes. And this year I went to Trinidad, and before I got there, we asked the same question, and my mother said, yes, I want to go. So that was a red light, something's going on. So I went with her to the doctor, and the turnaround between the doctor's office and me outside the door was about a minute or two. She went in, and within a minute or two, the doctor was out with her standing in front of me. And he's looking at her and saying to her, Mrs. Nunez, you know you have had cancer for a very long time. And my mother shakes her head, and I'm standing there in shock. And he says to my mother, you know you have had it for more than 2 years. And you know it. And my mother shakes her head, yes. So we go home. And my father says, we tell my father, and he says, yes, I know that because your mother sleeps with my undershirt and there's blood in it. I see the blood in it. So what we know is that she probably had it more than 2 years, that her tumor had gotten so large, it is described as the size of an orange, and the one under her arm was so large it was the size of a lemon, and we also know it ulcerated, meaning that it had broken through his skin and was bleeding. So here are the questions for me, and this is what happens to writers. There's something that happens, and we ask ourselves a question, and then we write a novel to try to find out what the answer is. And the questions, I'm sure you already know, was why didn't she say anything? Why did she allow this to happen? And the fact is that 3 of her sons, my 3 brothers, are physicians. So it's not that she is in a context where she couldn't go and ask somebody. Why didn't she say anything? Number one. And the second one is, my parents, unfortunately, both died in the last 4 years, and they died within 7 months of each other. They were married for 68 years, and 67 years, and they had, doing more, and they were married for 65, I think. And they had a very, very loving, and more than loving, very passionate relationship. So the second question is, If he's telling me he saw the blood on his nightshirt, she's sleeping with her nightshirt, why did he say anything? So in other words, he is in cahoots with her. They are in this together. So I'm going to tell you the good ending of the story. The good ending of the story is that my mother lived 15 years after that. And when she died at age 90, she did not die of this. That they gave her a drug, and this is not in the novel, but I'm just telling you so you have some peace with the real story. That they gave her an experimental drug in August, which was to reduce the tumor because they couldn't do surgery on her. She would have bled to death. So they gave an experimental drug between August and February